This episode is brought to you by the wine for bodacious gals like us.
Be bold, be outspoken, be bodacious.
Welcome back to Potty Talk, the podcast where we shit talk ourselves. I'm Jack.
And I'm Tor.
And we've got an episode today, baby. Tor, this is all you. She said she had a good story, so this better be good.
Well, I'm going to begin by rolling the intro so that my editing job is even easier for me. Okay, guys, welcome back. And yes, I do have a story. So I wanted to pull a David Dobrik. You know, I mention him on every podcast episode.
Also, I meant to tell you after editing last week's episode, that name is banned. You're never allowed to say David Dobrik.
You're not allowed to ban.
Yes, you banned Roses or you banned my fun facts. We're banning David Dobrik. You talk about him too much. And don't get me wrong, I like his videos, but it's something is weird the amount of times we mention him.
Okay, he brings me inspiration, that's why.
Banned.
So anyways, I do have to talk about him in this capacity because the whole thing on their podcast is that they often, they'll save stories, you know? They won't share stories within their friend group until they're live on the podcast, and then they tell stories. So I was going to call Jacqueline last night when this hilarious thing happened, and then I thought, no, allow me to save this for when we're live on air.
Okay.
So now I've saved it. So let's begin with why this happened. And this is because everyone that knows me knows I blow when I eat vegan food. I just get very ill. I can't really explain it, but there's something in it, but I love it. That's the hard part now that I really struggle with is that I actually love Fresh. That's where I was for dinner. I was at Fresh.
I'm going to be honest. I think you have a soy allergy.
Yeah, I think so too. Something is wrong. And the thing is I'm aware of it, but I just proactively still eat these things. So it's really my own fault. But anyways, it is what it is. So it all began because I was at Fresh for dinner and I ate, one of those salads that is going to upset my stomach just classically.
She orders the one also with quinoa in it, knowing she also can't eat quinoa.
You know what's crazy is I actually last night got it without quinoa. Like I even specified. So, and to be fair, there's other things in it that I just clearly am allergic to. Yeah, there was avocado in it. And I had avocado 2 nights ago and my stomach killed me. So I actually don't think I can eat avo. Anyways, it's a whole thing. So I'm walking home and I usually listen to podcasts. So I had my, AirPods, but I meant noise canceling, like the newer ones. So I literally can't hear anything around me. And I was walking into my condo and I just let it rip. Like I had the biggest, my stomach was really hurting and I was about to enter indoors. So I was like, I'm going to save everyone the displeasure. And just while I'm outside, but again, had noise canceling headphones. And so wasn't necessarily fully taking in my surroundings and or what was going on. So I let go, I let loose, and I enter, and all of a sudden I feel a tap on my shoulder. And let me preface this by saying there's a lot of influencers that live in my building. I don't know what it is.
Oh, I know who it was. It was Alex.
No, it wasn't actually. I won't even say her name because I can't even have this circle back to anyone in any capacity. But there's it wasn't Alex, but there was another influencer that lives in our building, and she was right behind me. And it's so funny because I've never run into her since she moved in. So this was our first encounter in months and months and months. And I literally called Adam and I go, I farted on her. I swear to God, that's disgusting. I know. That's what Adam said. He's like, you're crazy. And I was like, no, I didn't mean to. I honestly was just, you can't control. And I felt sick and I thought I was being nice. I'm like, I'm about to go inside. I'd rather do it outside.
In an enclosed space.
But take me in, tap, tap. I'm taking my headphones
out. As you're sharding.
So bad.
Did she make a face?
So it's funny because the way that it happened, I almost didn't realize until a few seconds later. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was
you were
a
just
delay.
living your life and you go, I farted as soon as she.
Because once again, the noise, the reverb of the fart, I didn't even hear because I had the AirPods in. And I'm like, oh my God. Thankfully, it's
no
not
comment.
Her and I are super close friends or it is what it is. But I can tell you right now, there's no way that won't get around in the industry in some capacity. So I'm just putting myself on blast and telling it my own way.
Oh my God.
I'm giving context to the explosion.
Honestly, Tor, if anything, you just gave Potty Talk even more IRL promo.
I
You're
know.
going to be the girl who shit talks herself also shits herself. So
Also farts on people uncontrollably.
Tori, that is bad.
I know.
That's
I know.
bad.
I was so embarrassed. But then also in the same breath, I wasn't embarrassed. It was so weird. I was like, is this just who I am
You
as an
are
adult?
someone who is like free with farts. Like you're fine. You're not as.
It was just
mean-
like very funny.
Gee, I don't even honestly know what to say. Like, are your pants okay? I hope you weren't wearing those nice Melina pants.
I was fine. It just was like it was more my my ego that was hurt.
So the takeaway is don't eat quinoa if you're allergic.
I know.
And two, if you're gonna
And
fart,
don't wear AirPods when
take
you
out the
are
noise.
having an explosion.
Oh God. You know what? I have to say, I have once been in a situation where I, little bit of bubbly tummy.
Yeah.
And was in the elevator thinking, like I was going up to my floor. So it's rare that I would ever hit another floor on my way up because people
Right.
typically are just coming down,
Yeah.
right? And I guess maybe someone was like visiting their friend down on say floor 4 and they were hopping on to go on to floor 6.
Right.
So I thought I was like in the clear. Same situation, was on the home stretch. And again, farting in an elevator, like that's like you hotbox the space.
I
Like,
know.
It's like not good.
I know.
And then
I mean, elevator, that's almost worse than
I know
an
and
outdoor.
Like, do you even make a comment like, I know, I don't know what happened in here. Like, do you have to? I mean, I didn't say anything, and to be fair, I don't think it was that gnarly, but still, I was like, oh, this is really
I'm
poor timing.
uncomfortable, yeah.
Yeah, but then I just don't even look. But now it's so good too because of COVID, my
Yeah.
building doesn't allow more than 2 people. Like, you can only be 1 person in an elevator.
So now you can fart freely
So
in
now
the
you can just be like,
elevators.
sorry, it's full, and like, don't let anyone in.
Right.
For their sake and my sake.
Yeah.
So, jeez.
Jeez.
Yeah, that is just like a low
I
moment.
know, it wasn't my best work, but anyways, I wanted to share that.
Was
and
the
then-
salad worth it at least?
Honestly, no.
Oh,
I
Jesus.
just felt sick, so
That's
yeah.
so sad. Well, I actually didn't even tell you. Well, I briefly did, but I didn't get into the actual details.
Yeah.
Last week, this is a continual problem in my life. My tooth fell off again. So this is another weird story of me and Tor in the fact that we think we were actually separated at birth. We both have very small, what are these teeth called?
Chiclets. I don't know.
Like not
Pointers?
the canines, but like the second, not your 2 buck teeth, but the teeth beside that. We have both very small teeth naturally. And both when we were 12 or 13, younger, had veneers placed on them. And again, we didn't even know each other at this time.
Yeah.
We've only found out since being friends. I'm like, oh, I actually have a veneer there. And she goes, I've got a veneer there. So we have this other weird bond. Anyways, I have a problem where
Fake
this
tooth bond.
Exactly. This one on the right side has popped off the last 5 years. It's a certain way I bite and it'll just pop off my mouth. And it's now become such a fear that I have dreams about my teeth falling out because it's been situations.
That's so funny. I've had dreams of my teeth falling out. I think it's inherently a fear when it's not your own teeth.
Yeah, no, and it's something that like I can't get like the thought out of my head. Even if I'm eating food and like I bite a weird way, I'll go, oh crap, did I just pop it off? But then sometimes I won't, but then sometimes I do.
Yeah.
And I've been in a situation before where I was literally flying down to Florida for Playlist Live, like about to, meet a bunch of subscribers and meet a bunch of new like
Did you have to live with the
YouTubers.
chiclet?
Yeah, no,
I remember that, yeah.
It literally popped off, and I think the tooth even broke that time. So it's like I couldn't even just like glue it back on or like do a little
Glue.
makeshift.
Oh
I
my
was ready. I was
God.
gonna super glue it back on
Oh,
last time. I was
wow.
like, fuck this. Like I have no tooth, and I'm about to go to Playlist Live. Like what?
Oh no.
And then I just had to embrace it. I was like, guys, like I looked like it looked weird, especially when a tooth is missing and you're so used to seeing that smile not that way. It
I
did
know.
look jarring. And so I've had this happen many of times. And then what do you know? Last week, it was about 2 years since the last time it's fallen off, which is, just time for it to pop off again.
Wow.
I'm sitting there at night. It's like a Friday night. I just had gotten home and I was like, oh, I just had some dinner. And literally the very first bite I take, boom, pops off. But again,
Was it a sauce? Is it the food? What was
no,
the food?
I was like eating like a soggy salad, like not even like a crunchy
What?
thing. Yeah, and I've had it pop off before from eating like soft bread. So
What?
I'm telling you, it's more the way that my bottom jaw hits the tooth. Like that's what just flicks it off.
But it doesn't hurt you.
No, it doesn't hurt at all, but I can just, you feel it like pop off, right? And right away I like spat out my food so that way I didn't bite it and break it because that's also what costs money too. Like veneers can get quite pricey, and if they're breaking all the time, you have to get them remade.
Oh my God. I just
Thank-
want to preface by saying mine have never come off in the 15 years that I've had them.
No, like incredible work. Shout out to your dentist.
We'll speak about my dentist later.
But no, my left one has never. My left one is the same one I've had since I was 12. But there's something going on, and fortunately, the next day I literally ran to a dentist right by my place and got them put back on.
that
and-
was like speedy. I'm glad you got it fixed
it was
so quick.
under like 18 hours, and I got
That's
it back
great.
on. And thank God it didn't break. But again, now I keep having even more nightmares of all my
Yeah.
teeth falling out.
So crazy. It was so funny because I actually was telling Jacqueline the other day, I have a new dentist because my other dentist who I had since like birth retired. And he came in the first day. I had like a teeth cleaning on Monday and he said, so good to see you. And I was like, we have never met before.
His voice just like drops into a lower register.
He's like a new, like, I won't say hot dentist, but like
hot
that's
dentist?
the vibe. Anyways, so we had this like whole like thing happen because he was looking at my veneers and he's like, you know what, you should actually come back in this week. I have a baby tooth that's the same as my dad's. It's like hereditary, so we both have the exact same baby tooth. And crazy,
you know that
right?
this happened to me and I had to get mine removed.
Oh, yes.
We have like it's so weird how aligned our
don't
even
get
like
it.
body structure is.
I don't get it. And so he's like, I want you to come back in because I want to preserve
it. Like a lower
it.
back there, kind of? Like,
No, it's right here.
oh my God, that's so funny. I can't remember off the top of my head, but same thing happened to
Weird.
me. And my dad also has that, which is why I had it.
Yeah, that's so weird. Teeth are very hereditary, apparently. So anyways, I go back in on Thursday, and he's like waiting at the door for me. He's like, how are you? And
Sorry.
he was like chatting with me, and then he was like, yeah, well, you know, I love the keg. And then I was like, oh, that's my like death row meal. Because like, you know, I always say I want the
I
keg.
know.
And he's like, no. It's my death row meal. And I was like, oh my God.
Is this guy young?
Does my dentist love me? Yeah,
he
like
like
28, 29,
Oh,
30.
so he was like
But I think he's engaged. Based on the fact that this is now, I hope he never finds this, but
can you imagine?
based on the fact that
Shout out to you.
I
Next time I have a near breaks,
jokingly-
I'm coming to you, buddy.
I jokingly saw the girls after Monday night and I was like, oh yeah, new dentist alert. And they, you know, we always joke around because a lot of them are still single and they're older than me. And I was like, yo, I should hook you up with my dentist. And then of course these girls are so sly that by the time, like they knew his whole history by the time we had walked away from dinner.
This was my OG problem of life, like the LinkedIn creep for the longest.
It was a LinkedIn creep. That's how they found him.
Do you not remember?
So creepy.
Oh my
Honestly, I
God.
hope no one listening does this. It's so creepy.
No, I have fully done this before and I've learned my lesson the hard way. And I didn't realize that LinkedIn could see who was creeping your profiles and vice
Wait,
versa.
is that true?
Yes, it can. You have to turn off the mode on you have to change your profile so that way they can't.
God.
I'll show you. Oh, yours is public too right now, isn't it?
I don't know, but to be fair, I didn't do it
Yeah.
obviously because I didn't care. I didn't
Yeah.
do it. The girls did it. So, but I'm probably a connection.
Oh,
so-
clearly. I've done that too many times. We were looking up in same situation. We're like, oh, we have to look. I think you were actually there. I don't want to say too much.
Wait, I know
Yes,
who
you
this
do.
guy
You do.
And we found
him through LinkedIn. And then
Honestly, I love a good LinkedIn stalk to find a hot guy.
Funny.
Like it's
but
really
then it was
amazing.
so funny because I swear to God, I must have referenced him for a week after that and like was like, oh, pulled up his LinkedIn each time. So it must have shown that I was on his account for a week straight. And then I was like, oh
Let's
my
just
God.
like call this man Sam. Sam knows you love him.
Oh, I know. Not good. Anyways.
Oh my God, that's very funny.
Another moral of the story, turn your profile to hidden so people can't see if you're creeping them through LinkedIn.
And also,
Not
yeah,
good.
just keep it professional. Let's just put it that way. But no, so funny. So anyways, I guess, yeah, we both were in dentist mode this week.
So
but
wait, did any of the girls book an appointment? They're like, oh, I've got gingivitis.
no,
I need
but
to go
that's
in.
so funny. And then when I left, because he had to remove something from my tooth, he's like, don't suffer in silence, Tori. Come back anytime.
Wait,
and I was like,
what is this man? No way.
I swear to God on my life. I swear to God on my life.
What?
To be fair, super friendly. Like it wasn't creepy
Yeah.
at all. He's also young. So I think it's just like the millennial vibe to be
yeah.
friendly. But very hilarious.
That is too much.
Don't
I mean, I
suffer
love
in
that.
silence, kids. Get your veneers
Don't
fixed.
suffer. Hey, next time it breaks, I will ask you for the
Yeah.
reference. Let me be clear. It's just been a crazy week. On top of that, oh my God. So the veneer breaks. The next thing that happened, it was the most eventful week ever, I swear. So my cousin, Megan, who was living in England for 2 years, she was living with me prior, which was like the best roommate experience of life because we're just like the same person. And yeah, so she was living in England and she finally just came back home and she had to quarantine for 2 weeks and then I could finally unite. So I went back to my hometown, good old Caledonia, and we had a little reunion and I definitely cried. I didn't know if I was going to. I was like, maybe, like it's been so long. And then as soon as I saw her, I was like, Ma boo, hello.
Yeah,
And I
sometimes it's hard to hold it in that setting.
yeah, and I'm such like as much as I'm not a crier, I would say, I am such a happy crier.
Yes, yeah.
Like I'm way more like I'll try to rein it in if it's like an actual emotional sad cry because I try, which I mean you shouldn't have to.
That makes
Crying is completely
less
fine.
sense, yeah.
But happy tears I'm more free with because it's like it's so
'Cause you're
like
just
I'm
excited.
overwhelmed in a good way.
Yeah.
But it was so much fun. Honestly, I swear to God, I felt like Tor. I was 12 years old again. We were like eating snacks because we tried to stay outside.
we were eating snacks.
No, but we were eating snacks out on like the driveway and like playing on the
Cute.
lawn and like we went back to like my old house, my old like survey as
Yeah.
well, which apparently survey isn't a word. It's a very Caledonia
I was
thing.
gonna say, what's survey?
It means like a neighborhood, but I swear to God, it's a word. But then it's not.
not.
Yeah, it's such a Caledonia thing. Like you'd be like, oh, I'm gonna be in your survey. I'll pop by. But that's not a
It's
word.
just like neighborhood.
Yes, it's very much so like
But
neighborhood.
a slang. That's such a weird slang.
I know.
I'm going to be on your survey.
I know. But anyways, we were back in my survey, and it literally was like a time warp. I can't explain
Wow.
it. It was like I was
That's nice.
back in high school, but in a refreshing way. We had the most fun. We had that electric skateboard, and
Yeah.
we're just zooming around. And
I feel like those experiences can be very grounding.
yeah. Do you feel like since you grew up like in the same kind of area that you live now, do you feel like you have those like time warp nostalgia moments as much, or no?
I don't feel that as much.
all very linear.
I think I would feel it in specific moments. Like, for example, if I walked into my high school, I would be like, time warp. Like, that
Yeah.
would make me feel really weird, like in a physical space that I hadn't been in
That's
like,
true.
5 years. But the actual neighborhoods don't make me nostalgic because it's all so close to home still.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Well, I guess your parents still live where you grew up.
yes, yeah.
Whereas like my parents don't live in our
Yeah.
childhood home anymore.
I think for you, it feels so distinctly different.
yes, it's like a very clear chapter of
Yeah.
this was a
this was
moment
then,
ago.
this is now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I don't feel that as much because it is so fluidly the same.
Does Adam? I guess Adam still has.
Adam feels that
Yeah,
way for
but he's
sure.
also came from a
oh my
small
god,
town.
he gets
and-
like literally so nostalgic in London. It's very cute. But I get that when you leave and then you go back, you've grown and everything else has stayed the same.
Yeah, that's the
such
weirdest
a weird
part.
thing.
It is weird.
It's like, oh, I just shot Drake's music video, and then you're just like sitting in London, Ontario,
know.
like where you used to skateboard, or like those
know.
little things,
oh, totally.
It's like definitely interesting. I don't relate to it because I've never had that experience, but I can understand.
Oh, God bless. Actually, I'm going up to Caledonia again this weekend.
Wow,
So
acutely.
I'm slowly like just migrating back there.
Oh no, I don't know how I
Anyways.
feel about that.
You gotta. I always say this. Caledonia is such a moment. You're
I would
coming
go
on
for like
a road trip.
a day. Yeah, yeah.
It's just funny because there's also just nothing to do. So it's like, but I think that's very much so inherent to like who I am as a person because I had to be scrappy as a kid in the sense that
Yeah.
like you would play road hockey or just like go into the forest in the backyard because like there's
you
no other
make
thing
fun
to
for
do.
yourself.
Totally.
Yeah, yeah.
So I guess it's that whole debate of like nature versus nurture. Like, is it your environment that you are that way? Do you think you were born that way? And
Yeah.
I think a lot of it is the way.
Your environment.
Yes.
Yeah, I agree.
I agree.
Because I clearly have the like Paris Hilton simple life vibe. Once I get to the country, I truly don't know what to do with myself.
Speaking of, we're heading back up to the good old Torcello
We are.
land.
We really are.
How did this come to life? Walk me through and walk everyone else through.
Basically as simple as a DM. Like it's so funny, and maybe this is a good lesson in overdoing it or over performing or over giving in any way is never going to hurt you. We had gone obviously to like this great place in Prince Edward County for Torcella in August. It was expensive, but it was also like the right size and like it just worked and it was a good location, and we kind of had like hopes and dreams of a third annual and also doing like a wine tour, so it just like made sense. So I booked this location and that was it. Like I just booked an Airbnb. I paid full price. I did it the long and hard way. And then we just, all of us kind of did a lot of like social love for it. To be fair, it's a beautiful place.
Yeah.
And we had taken so many photos and it was
and iconic TikToks in it.
true. And it was like no skin off my back if I was already posting a photo to like tag them or like give a swipe up link
Yeah,
for
of
where
course.
people could like book it. And so then he literally just circled back to me randomly last week and said, do you guys want to come and enjoy again, for free this time because you gave so much social love and you can just enjoy a little like, fall roast vibe. And I was like, yeah.
Incredible. Well,
So
I think
we're-
that's like
we're
the beauty of
returning.
it because I think when you originally had obviously just booked it through Airbnb, he didn't know obviously like who you were, anything like that.
Yeah.
And then I think once you started posting, he must have gotten, I bet you he got so many bookings because even I know I was getting messages of people being like, what is
Yeah.
that? So I'm sure he was like, oh, that definitely gave me like a boost in
I'm sure there-
bookings or whatever.
from-
So for
from
him
the
to pay
way-
you back, it was kind of like a
Yeah,
in-kind thing,
it
right?
does kind of feel like there's no way there weren't conversions.
Oh,
you know what
there
I
had-
mean? Like I think he was like, oh, she like literally got people in the door and like they rented the place.
Totally.
So yeah, great for us because it just means because we had been talking about doing like a fall getaway just like with the girls, doing something small but cute. But then it's like really hard to get everyone aligned on dates and like
Yeah.
actually like get everyone to invest money into a getaway. So this was just a perfect happy
so
medium.
nice. I'm so
Yeah.
excited.
Yeah.
It's nice to have like a reset. I find this time of year too. It's kind of like end of November is kind of the calm before the storm.
Well, and we're also not getting, not to like complain, but we're also not getting all the like cute little fun wintry getaways we sometimes get with like brands, and which
Yeah.
of course we're spoiled rotten for that.
yeah, well, yeah, our lives in general have just been so
Yeah.
in the house, as they should be, but it's been it needs a little excitement sometimes.
Yeah,
Safely.
like
Safe
it's nice that
excitement.
we can do it this way and make November, because we usually have kind of a fun little getaway at the end of November with a few of our clients and brands. So this is now our version.
Totally. And I think it's nice too because a few of the girls in our bubble also, like home isn't Canada for them and they're going to be going back home.
Yeah.
So we're not going to see them for another like 2 months. So it's kind of like the final hurrah to do like a little
I didn't even
Christmas
think about
moment.
that. That's so sad. Yeah.
I know. They're going to be gone.
Yeah.
I mean, hopefully fingers crossed if they get home.
If the flights go.
I know. Damn.
Hope no one listening is trying to travel over the holidays because I do feel so anxious for them.
It's so crazy, but we're putting out good vibes. Jacqueline Juju is going strong, baby.
I love it. So let's jump into a whole other segment. The Potty Talk listeners will be shocked to hear. Jacqueline, tell me about the launch of your merch. You've heard it here first, probably.
Oh my goodness. I don't know if that's what we're hopping into. I'm excited. Okay, guys. So I have been wanting to do this for a really long time. And I don't want to give too much away, but what I will say and what makes this the most Potty Talk story of life is the fact that I swear I've probably spent I've been obviously ideating this for like over a year, but really probably putting a lot of time and effort into the last 6 months. And then, probably the last 4 months was like more of the like brain power, figuring out the color scheme, doing all that stuff. And I had this vision that I hadn't seen anyone do yet. And I was like, oh, I think this is going to hop on this trend before it, doesn't
dies out.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And again, I'm in this factory, dyeing new colors, making new color selections, trying to get this perfect. And it's taken like, honestly, 2 months.
Yeah.
And I did want to do it more the hands-on route and make sure it was all done ethically. And I was putting all of this time to make sure I was doing it right, especially for my first drop. Mm-hmm. And then fast forward this week, we're gearing up probably by the time you're listening to this in about 3 weeks to have my merch drop.
Yeah.
And you DM'd me last week and you go, Jack, isn't this exactly what you were thinking to do? You DM me another brand who just did their new kind of clothing drop as well. And I swear to God, it was like the exact idea what I've had and also just done better. Which was
done
even
really
funnier.
well, yeah.
Yeah, it was like so beautiful. I was like, oh my God. Fortunately,
that's the worst. That's the worst feeling.
Honestly, like what can you do? Like
the brands ultimately are different. And
exactly.
The colors will be different.
It's a separate thing. And again, my colors, are slightly different. So it is more of a different moment, but it's just so funny because that was literally exactly what I envisioned. And it was just 10 times better.
It also sucks when like things just launch quicker and you're like, now it just seems like it wasn't my idea, but it was my idea. Yeah. Like that's so annoying.
No, it's just like, you gotta laugh at that stuff. And honestly, like hats off, work smarter, not harder, work quicker and like all of that stuff.
I guess that's true.
It just like made me laugh and go, oh, LOL. Like,
you're like, oh, good. All this effort just to have someone else beat me to the punch. But I'm sure brands feel that way all the time.
Oh, I'm sure.
Like even with skincare, I can't even imagine like a makeup color, a palette, like people must be so butthurt. Like imagine an indie small little brand and then you have like a L'Oreal and then they just quickly throw something on the market, but it's like exactly what another indie brand is ideating.
Yeah, it also makes me think too, like, you know how when big makeup brands will have very similar launches and say, for example, like metallic lipsticks are all the rage.
Yeah.
And they go to all these like pre-trade shows like years prior to be like, okay, in 2018, this is going to be like the most trendy thing. And they share all the new formulas and the new like technology and all those things. And then all these brands end up either like buying into it or buying a formula. And they all end up basically having the same stuff because they've all been trend forecasted the exact same way, right? And then 2 years later, you're like, okay, how are all of these brands now suddenly coming out with the exact same product? Like, what? But I guess that is kind of like the way it works. Like, we're all on the same timeline, and I'm sure, like, the trend of what this clothing is, like, it all happens, and I totally get how these overlaps happen.
Yeah.
But it just made me laugh and go, wow, this is the reality of it, and, I mean, who knows how this is going to go now? Because they're going to be like,
no, I'm sure it's fine.
Yeah. No, I'm still super excited, and we're doing
either way. It's like what we always say: you did it at least. It's like everyone can always talk the talk, but you had a vision, you made it come to life, you executed. That's the hardest part.
We haven't executed yet, so
almost close to execution.
No, that was the thing I had written down too, because every year I kind of like to go through, like in a notebook, literally just like write down some goals and stuff. And this year I was like, I want to sell a product of some sort, and I didn't know exactly how it was going to come to life. And we are almost nearing December, so we're cutting it very close. But yeah, no, like I said, I think it is great to at least do something, and we'll see. So stay tuned. In a few weeks, I could be crying and have a bunch of extra product on my hands.
No, that's not going to be the case.
We'll be wearing it. We'll wear it on the pod one episode.
Oh, we will wear it on the pod. Also, you have to think, I was thinking this the other day too, how many people probably, because it reminded me, I saw this TikTok, it was so funny. And she goes, I found the goals I wrote down for, like on New Year's Eve, like going into 2020. And it was so funny because she's like laugh crying.
Wait, who was?
This just this random girl on TikTok. It was on my For You page. And she's like, see my friends more. And then she's like laugh crying. And then she's like, see my grandmother more. And then she's like, my grandmother passed away from COVID. Oh. Like it literally took a dark turn, but she was like laugh crying. And then she was like, also like get a new job. And then she's like, I've literally been laid off since March. Yeah. Like it was just so crazy, like all the things.
Oh,
and I'm like, yeah, even if you're crossing things off a list that in a year like this, I think that's pretty epic.
Some roses and thorns for sure.
Literally.
Speaking of, we normally like to wrap up each episode with some roses and thorns. But we have a new segment today that we want to introduce, and we're very excited about it, and that is the Living Bodaciously segment. Now, basically, we went to you, the Potty Talk audience, and we asked, can you send in your zesty stories? Maybe a moment in your life where you were a little bold, maybe a moment where you accomplished something epic, a great achievement, or really just one of those moments where you had to laugh at yourself. And we got a bunch of submissions, and we promised we would share them anonymously. So we've kind of gone through the list, and we wanted to share some with you and basically share our Potty Talk bodacious moments.
We love it. I'm so excited. And I think it's so cool that you guys sent in your own bodacious moments, and then hopefully we can find ways to connect them to bodacious moments we've had of our own in our lives.
I also think there's something so nice just about the idea of like community and seeing people similar in age do something inspiring, or just, again, have that moment where you can let your guard down and laugh at yourself.
Yeah.
There is really a power in connection. And speaking of, Tor, I know you have the first story ready here. Do you want to lead into our first bodacious moment?
I will. Okay, so, and also I will preface by saying I named these stories. So people did not necessarily name these stories, but we gave them life by giving them headings. So I called this one The Performer, and I will read it. Last year, a professional Ottawa theatre company held auditions for a musical, but I did not meet the requirements at all. I had never done a professional show with them before, and I was 5 years younger than the call sheet had specified. Anyway, I thought I'd be bang on for the gig, so my mom told me to go for it anyway. Flash forward to my audition, they questioned me on my experience within the company and my age, but I guess it didn't matter because I got the role anyway. Here was a great example of taking a risk and breaking the rules to get ahead in my career.
That's epic.
I love that.
That is absolutely epic.
It's so good. And I was thinking about this too because I obviously grew up performing, and I remember going into my NYU audition when I was auditioning for college, and you do sometimes get that, what's that feeling when you know you're prepared? Oh, imposter syndrome. Mm-hmm. And I thought to myself, I've been training for 10 years and, I've been preparing for this for my whole life. But then, you're so nervous on the day and it starts to creep up on you. And I think this story is just a great example of like tuning into your confidence and just allowing that to speak for your, to speak for your talent. You know what I mean?
I also think there is something to be said too for just like rising to the occasion. And it's so easy nowadays. There are so many road bumps or things that kind of tear you down or break your confidence.
Yeah.
And it's easy to have something like, whether it's an age requirement or years of experience,
for sure,
that you can make yourself feel doubtful.
Anyways, yeah, so when I was auditioning for NYU, even though I had that moment of doubt, I remember the morning of literally sitting in my New York hotel room. I did all the things I would do before any show because I was thinking, this is basically, I'm going to perform for them. This is going to be like a show. So I remember warming up in the hotel shower. I'm sure I had some neighbors that were upset about that. I was doing like dance moves down the hallways, like just so I felt warm. Just all those little kind of funny things. And then it is funny because then once you get into the room, everything kind of washes away and you can be your confident self, and you can, as this person did, kind of stand in your own light and realize, hey, it doesn't matter if there's things in my way. I can still persevere and be my talented self. Because I also had barriers of my own when I auditioned. I was Canadian and had to write the SATs, and I obviously did it late, and it was all of these crazy things. So I, in my head, felt like there was all these barriers to entry, as this performer did. But then, you just kind of have to be your fabulous, bodacious self, which ultimately I think we both did in this scenario.
If you ever have butterflies in a moment like that, do you lean into them? Do you try to ignore them? What's your strategy?
Oh, that's a good question.
Nerves?
I think that they actually do fuel me. I used to be very good, I would say, at managing them. I actually think it's gotten worse as I've gotten older. I think that I was I was way better at leaning into them when I was younger. Like I remember being a little, like almost, you know, hyperventilating before one of our first performances when we were doing Hairspray, and I was the lead. I was literally carrying the whole show. And I remember looking at my director and she said, "Oh my gosh, Tori, you look nervous." And I said, "Yeah, can you tell? I feel really nervous." And then she said, and she started laughing. And she said, "Oh my gosh, I've never seen you nervous before. Oh my gosh, this is going to be a breeze. Like, don't even worry." And she so brushed it off and didn't make it seem like a big thing. And I also find like being physical really helps me. Like I will be like, like I'll actually go crazy to like get the energy. Like it's almost like you have too much adrenaline. You know when you have too much energy,
totally.
And you have to like literally punch. Like I would like punch in the air, and like I had this whole exercise. You go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and you literally physically like let the energy out of your body and. Woo! It brings you back.
There's something to be said too. I think when you're younger, I don't know if it's maybe being slightly more naive and just excited, but when you're older, sometimes you know the weight of whether it's an audition or a performance, you know the gravity that it holds. It almost makes those nerves.
Makes it harder.
Yes, they feel more real, and it just, you know what's kind of banking on it.
Yeah.
So like you don't want to mess it up.
I think when you're young, you can just say to yourself, if this doesn't work out, I've got my childhood or something.
Exactly. You just go, oh, that was fun. Move on.
Yeah. But then when you're older, it seems like, oh, well, this bill might pay for my rent, or I could do this with the money, or, you know, you start to think of all these other things as opposed to just focusing on the actual audition at hand. But yeah, I think this was a great example of, you know, just someone being confident, not listening to the rules, because, you know, here at Potty Talk, we do not follow the rules.
Speaking of the rules, though, we do have another story we did want to share with you, and we have this one titled...
Why is that a rule?
Because the rule is that you do one and I do one. Right?
Okay.
You want to break the rules?
A rule? I'm taking over the whole podcast.
Okay, fine. Well, Tor has also titled this one. This is Tor's creative direction with these titles. So again, this was not submitted with this title, but this is what we called The Thirst for Adventure and Knowledge. And this one goes, 2 years ago, I decided that I would quit my job in the middle of a mental breakdown and my lease and go to Iqaluit Nunavut. Being from Toronto, I'd only ever really seen big cities, and I knew that there was so much more about Canada, to know about Canada. And I also just felt like it would be the ultimate escape, like going to another world and putting my life on pause for a bit. I stayed with locals for 2 months, learning about Indigenous groups that lived in territories and their experiences, and it truly changed my entire life and how I view the world and the things that I was running from. Since that experience, I've come back and made it a priority to work with nonprofit organizations that work to increase the quality of life for Indigenous Canadians, and especially to advocate for the women there, because they're living in a crisis that isn't really seen by so many of us privileged enough to live in the southern parts of Canada. It truly changed my life and let me be a part of something bigger. Hopefully, I can make a career out of it and eventually become a politician that prioritizes these issues. Who knows? Maybe you'll see my name on the ballot someday.
Aww.
And yes, I can confirm the Northern Lights are even more magical in Nunavut than Iceland or Norway.
Aw, that's so cute.
What an epic story.
It's such a nice love letter to Canada, you know? I love that so much. And, I mean, truly bold, picking up and going wild.
Well, I think there's something to be said, too, if you feel almost stuck in routine, and it's easy to kind of go with the flow of life and not make a big move because there's so much more risk involved, and the mundane day-to-day, it's easier to just go with that instead of just making a bold move. But there is something to be said about passion, and if you know your heart isn't in what you're doing, like it's like what people say, if you love what you're doing, you never work a day in your life, which of course
is not necessarily
there's
true.
Some truth to that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, if you can look at your life and go, if I'm going to be doing this 9 to 5 for the next 40, 50 years of my life until I retire, what's the point if my heart's not there, right?
I think the biggest thing too is like the joie de vivre, as we say.
Like, I've never said that,
but as I say, but you know what I mean? Like that true like joy of living. And I think that this story really gives us that. And also the idea of, you know, taking that risk, leaving Toronto, going somewhere completely new where you're not necessarily in tune with what the culture is, and immersing yourself in it and learning so much, and learning about yourself, learning about your country. Like it's pretty phenomenal.
And yeah, I mean, I thought this was really inspiring too. It's like also recognizing your privilege and also acknowledging the struggles that many Indigenous communities face. So I thought this was a beautiful story as well, which is why I wanted to save it and share it. And it's always so fascinating too to even think like this cool of a person listens to our podcast. Like I want to be that person.
I know. Thank you so much for sending in your stories, guys. Those were our 2 bodacious moments of this week. And I'm just so glad glad that we get to read some stories.
We'll be
fun.
doing a few other Living Bodaciously segments, so stay tuned, and maybe your story will get shared as well. And again, in the spirit of our partnership with Bodacious, we really just wanted to highlight some of the epic moments of your life. So thanks again for sharing. And although we don't know your names because you are anonymous, go you. You guys are all great.
Go you guys.
Doing great things. Well, it does feel sad to not have a Roses and Thorns, but I do definitely feel inspired by those stories nonetheless.
I do too. I will give up Roses and Thorns for the beauty of that segment.
It's a good trade-off.
It is.
Anyways, I hope you enjoyed today's episode of Potty Talk,
the podcast where we shit talk ourselves.
And we will see you next week. I'm Jack.
She's Jack. I was going to say, come on.
I'm Jack.
I'm Tor.
And that's been Potty Talk. Bye, everyone.
Bye.